Hey, welcome back to the shop. This week we have this 2007 Sportster on a lift for a couple of issues. What's the issues, you might ask? Well, it's not cranking and it has a pretty severe oil leak. So let's dig into it. Welcome back to Butler Customs Motorcycle Shop. This is a new family that moved in from California right here to the great city of Hartsville, Tennessee. And so they were needing some help with her bike. I came recommended to them via FaceSpace. Now we're just going to diagnose, give her a quote, and if she's good with that, then we'll order what parts we might need and continue on with getting this 07 Sportster back on the road. Let me get you peepers in here on this bike. And I love see all them bug guts and road debris. That's how I like a bike. Well ridden. Bikes are made to ride. I like to see all that. Means she's been going. So it's in here for a no start issue. We'll just kind of walk around. Now you say, man, what's that? Is that for your Coke cans? No. If you're from California, you know that's the smog emissions they make you put on the bike. So this is indeed a California bike. Of course, you don't need that here in the great state of Tennessee. Got a aftermarket big sucker air breather on it. It is fuel injected, so it does have Screaming Eagle pipes on it, but I don't know if it's had any cam work or anything on it. Let's talk about two big issues. A no crank after you've driven halfway across the country transporting the bike, and an oil leak. How do we find oil leaks and know for a fact where they're coming from? Because they can be deceiving. Now this couple from California just moved into town, I think back about 4 or 5 months ago, and transported their bike here. Both bikes, he and she both ride, and then she went out to start her bike and it would not crank. So I'll put the key in, see if we can replicate the issue. Ignition on, security chirps, check engine light comes on and goes off. It's in the run position. I can hear the fuel injection pump pumping, the fuel pump pumping. So when I went and picked this bike up, because they were close, they didn't have a way to get it up here. I said, well, I'll come get it. Literally, they live 4 miles away. So I went and picked it up, talked to them, looked at his bike, got this loaded up, pulling it back home, and immediately when I turned out of their road, I heard like sirens going off, and I looked in my rear view mirror, thought I was getting pulled over, and the hazard lights, blinker lights were flashing on this bike. So this 07 Sportster has what's called a transportation mode that you have to put this bike in when you're transporting it. The reason for that is that this bike and all its computer boot box and stuff knows, even though the bike is not running, even though the fob is not close, it knows it's moving. And so it thinks it's being stolen, rolled away. So the security goes off. The flashers flash. From California to Tennessee, that's what happened. So I pulled over at a little church parking lot just right off their road, called them and said, hey, did you put this in transportation mode when you transported it? And they said, what is that? So it happens. You might not even know that your bike has a transportation mode that you have to set it in before you load it on a trailer and haul it somewhere. Even if it's to the next city over an hour away, it could significantly drain your battery. So I suspect that's what's going on. And when I picked it up, she said, now the security on this is very touchy, very sensitive. Well, yeah, it is. How do you get a bike like this in transportation mode in the first place? Well, let me show you that in case you need to transport your bike somewhere. Now, you don't have to get it out of transportation mode. You just put the key in, turn it on as normal. It goes out of transportation mode. But you do have to put it in transportation mode to let the bike know, hey, I'm moving the bike and it's mine, I own it. So to get into transportation mode, some bikes and models are different. On this 07 Sportster, you need the key fob and you need the key. That's all you need. So you have to have the key fob present. And my suspicion is the battery on this is getting low. It takes like a normal car battery. Little insert here for a key or a pocket knife. Pop it open, change the battery out. But the sensor for this key fob is right here under the seat. So I'm going to separate the two, lay this here, put the key in the ignition. So the procedure for transportation mode, turn the key to ignition, turn it right back off. Then hold both left and right turn signals until the flashers flash once. That lets you know you've engaged transportation mode. So let's give it a shot. I think I got enough juice to do it. Ignition, off, transportation mode. There we go. So the lights flash twice and the siren honked twice, chirped twice. And so this is in transportation mode. Oh, it can rock and kick and buck on your trailer and it is not going to run your battery down. Now if we take it off of transportation mode, so we would just turn the key on to try to start the bike, no start, turn the key off, take it out. Now it's out of transportation mode. So I would say that's what it's been doing going down the road. So it's going to be a dead battery. And they said they put the battery on a trickle charge and it still would not start. Might be something more than a dead battery. As far as oil leaks, we'll address that in a minute, but let's at least get the bike started. That will help us to better look for oil leaks, which I've already found 4 or 5. That's how it is sometimes. All right, we'll take a Phillips, get the seat bolt out. So if you got a Sportster around these model years, you know, whew, the batteries are hard to get to on these. So this little side panel kind of hides your battery, and it's got little clips here on this. This one seems to be missing or broken, so they've got it zip tied right here. So we'll delete on that zip tie with my favorite shop tool. Alright, and this can swing down or you can take it off. We're just going to take it off. Alright, it does have an aftermarket tuner, a fuel pack, a Vance & Hines one, so that's good. Okie dokie, this looks like our battery tender here. They just had stuck up in there with a fuse. The fuse still looks good. And then it does have a maxi fuse here. So before I pull the maxi fuse, I just want to test on things. Your hot's always on the outside. And then the negative, you don't really have to reach it. You can just connect here anywhere on the frame that you know is grounded good. So let's see what the battery is reading. Turn this over to volts. Okay, we'll get one here on the hot. And let's try this one. Yeah, okay, that's giving us a good reading if it'll stay on there. So a 12-1, which you say, well, that's a good battery. Well, if I go to try to crank it, let's see what it does. Turn the key on, drops to 11.6. Try to start it. Ooh, that dropped down pretty good, didn't it? 7 volts. Okay. So I suspect it's just the cold cranking amps on that battery. It probably does keep a charge because, as you see here, it's going back up. It's holding a charge, but the code cranking amps are gone. This is probably the 9th or 10th battery, car or bike, that I have seen in the last 2 years that charge fine, trickle charge fine, hold a charge, but no code cranking amps. Let's get this battery out and we can load test it, and that'll tell us. Big 30 amp maxi fuse we will pull. Now okay. What? I can't hear you. All right, we will not pull that maxi fuse. Good gracious. What kind of security thing is on this? It sounded like I was robbing a bank. Holy moly. If moly can be holy. All right, oh gosh, what is this tape for? Oh no, I don't like to see electrical tape. You see that? Ouch. Okay, we got to fix that. That wire is almost down to the metal, and I know what that's from. I've seen it before. That's from this right here. Yep, see that? It's been rubbing right there, and this is metal, and this is your main hot. So that is no good. Okay, now what am I going to do? Because when I go to pull this, that thing's going to go off. What in the world do I do? I'm going to have to find the security fuse. I bet you this is an aftermarket security by the way that it sounds. I'm going to have to unhook that. I don't mind the lights flashing, but with no power to it, you'd think. Okay, hold on. That is not the maxi fuse. So that's just running. What if I pull the system relay? What if I pull that? Okay, that's gel. That's pretty good. Okay, that's the system relay. I wonder if that kills the power. Yes. Okay. Oh, no. Well, if that was mine, that'd be the first thing I'd take off this bird. Oh, well, that didn't do nothing. I don't know what kind of alarm they got on this, but good night, it is loud. Okay, let me do some studying, because I'm pretty sure if I disconnect this here, it's going to squawk on us. We can see, though. All right, let me get something up underneath this, because that's going to fall, and I'll never get it back in. And I'll lose my mind and my hearing until I can get it back in. All right, got me a business card here. Just going to tear off a piece like that. Make sure it's narrow enough, fold it, stick it under there. That should hold that up, that if I take this off, it ain't gonna go crazy on us. Let's see. I think it will. Yeah. Okay, it seems to be just this one. So I've got everything disconnected from the battery, except for this that I guess is security. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. Okay, so there is a way to disarm the security system. A couple of ways I found. You could put it in diag mode and put your pin in and disarm it that way. But an easier way is to take your key fob, put it right here where your security sensor is, take your key, turn it to the ignition position and leave it on. Make sure your run switch is on. And then the computer knows you have the key, you're the owner. So we'll turn it on, and I hear the fuel pump running, so maybe this is just for the starter relay and nothing more. Now we should be able to disconnect this and the alarm not go off on us. Hey, all right, we did it. Very good. Now we can go ahead and work on pulling the battery actually out. If you don't have a load tester, I would highly recommend you get one. These battery testers come in so handy. These do the 6 volts and the 12 volt systems. So the reason you want one of these, let me hook this here. I'll take this and hook this here. Is look here. This shows it's a good battery, 12 volts. However, when I hit this button, it's going to throw power to these coils in here and heat them up for 10 seconds. And you'll watch this needle drop, and wherever it drops tells us the condition of the code cranking amps of that battery. Ready? There you go. Right at the bad mark. 9 volts is all I'm getting as I hold this. And it keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. For about 10 seconds, it gets down to 8 volts and drops even quicker there as it's pulling current. Now you let off, it goes back up and it'll climb back up to a good 12 volts. So with this test, then you know for a fact that battery is bad. Now just to confirm it, how about we hook this battery back up and we hook a charge to it, a jump pack, and see how that does, and see if the bike actually starts up. Okay, I've got this new battery portable jump box that I just did a review on, that this company sent me to test out and review. So let's see how it does. It's a Gulu. I'm not sure how you say that. I got the battery hooked back up. Let's plug this bad boy in. All right. We got 3 bars on it. That should be enough. Thinking maybe the fender frame, the fender bolts. Okay, I got a green light that it is connected. So let's see if she'll start now. It's in neutral. All right. Now I want to check and make sure it's charging. I want to make sure it's not a stator or rectifier issue. Sounds good. .4, 13.5. So it is charging. So it is indeed the code cranking amps on that battery. It was charging. The rectifier is working. The stator is working. Let's see if it'll start back up. My guess is it won't. Yeah. So that indeed verifies that, yep, that is a bad battery. Now let's move on to the oil leaks, because I got to get the customer a diagnostic list together of what needs to be fixed, or what I would fix for it to be rideable. Well, I mean, technically I ride an old panhead, so if it cranks, it's rideable. Right? But you know, she don't want it leaking all over her garage floor. I mean, it is Tennessee though. They'll get used to leaky garage floors. So when checking for oil leaks, there's a couple rules you want to go by. Most folks will see an oil leak on the ground and they'll start at the bottom and try to trace where the oil leak is coming from. Now, the problem with that is, say I got a leak down here, which I do. So I fill up under here and I look right here and I'm like, oh, it's my plug. It's my drain plug for my primary, so that's all it is. It's not necessarily true. What you want to do when you're looking for oil leaks is start at the top, the very possible top of where oil could leak from. So start at the top of your motor, start with both jugs, look at them one at a time, and look down, and what you might find is, see that right there? That is an oil leak, and it's been leaking right here in this cover gasket for quite some time because it's burnt on there, crusted up. I see oil right here. I see that this is wet, that's wet, that's wet, and it's running down here. It's running, pulling up down here and running back behind my primary, which I bet you is leaking out right here where my plug would be. Could that be the oil leak that's causing what you're seeing on the floor? But that is definitely one of them. So it looks like it's leaking from this cover gasket and maybe even from the rocker box gasket as well. So start at the top and go down. You might find several leaks right here. I see another leak starting to happen right here, though it's not dripping down yet, but there's oil residue right here. So these rocker gaskets, these rocker cover gaskets are failing, especially on the rear. Been doing that for a while. So look down through here, get your peepers down in here in this base, in this head gasket. Make sure you don't see any leaking from the center or the front. Now you might see something built up back here, but I believe it's from up here. So you just keep looking down. Our base gaskets right here is nice and dry, but what I do see is a little wetness right here. So right here in this base gasket, I see a little wetness. I'm gonna bring you in here and let you see it up close. So I'm looking around here. This looks nice and dry on our primary cover gasket, but I get down here and I see a whole bunch of oil on this cable. And I see that it's coming not from necessarily the O-ring, because this housing is dry, but it's coming from the actual cable itself, right where the plastic sheathing goes into the metal for the cable. So a new clutch cable is what's going to have to happen. You could change this O-ring out in here, but it's probably not going to stop what is happening here because it is leaking not from the O-ring, but from back here. Okay, I see more leaks over here. So when you start at the top, you really get to see a lot of things that could be the issue to why you see oil on the ground. You see how nice and shiny this fin surface is right here? Then you look at this one, that's oil. Then you look at this one, that's oil. So you've got oil coming out of your breather bolts. And actually you can see the gasket for this big sucker air cleaner has broken and is halfway pushed off. If you look on this side, you see that the gasket in the front, or the O-ring, has failed as well. You can look here at this and see a bunch of oil. So she's going to need a new air breather. We're going to need new O-rings here. We're going to probably look down here, check out your tops right here, check out your cam cover as well. All this looks good and dry over here. And we've not even gotten up underneath the bike yet to check oil lines or anything like that. Now if you look right here, I don't know how well you can see down in there, but you see that wetness? So there is a leak that looks like it's coming from this fitting right here, or possibly from the line itself. So that is a leak there. Everything else back in there looks good and dry. There you can see that wetness there. You can see that O-ring there pushed out. You can come over here and see all the goop on that. Back here is dry, right there is not. And look at that filter. Look at the crud. If you overfill your oil, you will puke oil out of your breather and into your air filter. I would imagine if we were to take this off, you would find that throttle body to be just absolutely crud. let's do that. It's just this one bolt here for the cover, maybe 3 more bolts, and we can check inside there. Get this cover off. It did have some Loctite on it, that's good. Get this off right here. Okay. And there's our 3 Allen heads right there. They look like a 5/32. That was a 3/16 here. Yeah, 5/32 here. Those are on there way too tight. Oh gosh, I don't like that. Way too tight. I've seen those throttle bodies crack from over tightening the air cleaner on the throttle body. Okay. So here's the air breather. And just look at that. Look at all that. I don't see how this bike was breathing at all. And like I suspected, when you look up in here, you can even see the oil dripping off right here. So it was puking. I would suspect the oil level is extremely high. This is an Arlen Ness big sucker, so it's a nice one, but we will have to get some O-rings there. But take a gander at this throttle body. All right, let me get you a light up in there. Look at that. Whoo-wee. That is gummy, nasty. That should be shiny, shiny white. And there's oil splatter all up on that butterfly. It's bad. And it's been bad for a while. You can see now, let me show you where I just cleaned off part of that butterfly there. So I bet when I twist on the old throttle, oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that or not, way back there in the back, you can see the oil splattering on the back of the intake where it splits off to go to the front and rear cylinder. So I bet the plugs look really, really fouled. Although it started up, it sounded good. I bet it doesn't run that good with that much junk going down into your pistons. Let's pull both plugs. Just look at the condition of them. I bet they're pretty fouled and oily. I might need to add plugs to the diagnostics. Front plug here. It's a 5/8. Oh, not even tight. I could have turned that out with my hands. Not even tight. Okay, so there is a little bit of carbon around the top of the thread, but that's fine. This actually looks like it's running maybe a little lean, but it's got a good brown marshmallow color to it. I might want to see a little bit hotter plug. These are Harley Davidson plugs. Now remember, Harley Davidson makes motorcycles. They don't make spark plugs. They don't make tires. They don't make rubber. So remember that. They don't make oil filters. They don't make oil. They make motorcycles. So you can buy all the Harley branded stuff you want, but don't think Harley's making it, okay? It's just rebranded. Okay, that's actually tighter than finger tight. Whoop, but not much. Okay, that plug looks much the same. I don't know if that crush washer was even crushed, because I just felt it crush. Now what I want to do is get up under the bike and see if I can see any visible leaks under there that might not be coming from up here. I think the majority of the leak is coming from here and that other hose we saw and the air breather running all down at the bottom. Because when I look through here at that hose I showed you on the other side, it is indeed leaking pretty bad. Now down in here, of course the oil hose slides down in here. Okay, I'll try to zoom in on it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you see how dry this is right here? And then when you get down to right here, you see this wet spot right here. Now, I know it's not coming from back behind here because it's dry on this side. It's just wet right here, and it gets wetter and wetter all through the back here as it goes down. It is a primary cover gasket that is leaking. So leaks that I have found so far: an oil hose that is leaking. Could just be the clamp, but I would probably go ahead and replace the hose as well, just to make sure. Rocker top covers, rocker arm gasket. I would go ahead, when you buy the kit, you usually get both. I'd go ahead and do both. Clutch cable. Of course, a new O-ring will go on the drain plug, so I'm not worried about that. And new air breather gaskets and a new air breather. Of course, oil for this. And I haven't checked the motor oil, but I believe it to be probably overfilled. I can check it real quick. This little pop-up tab thing, twisty tab, and it looks to be maybe slightly overfilled. Okay, so that's all the leaks I could find. So we're definitely going to need a new battery. We're going to need a new gasket kit for the air breather, rocker top covers, rocker arm assembly gaskets, a new oil line and clamp, 2 clamps for this oil line coming out. So it means we got to drop the oil, so we'll need to do an oil change. If we're doing an oil change, let's go ahead and change the filter and the plugs. We're going to need a new clutch cable, and we're going to need, it'll come with an O-ring and all that. So we're going to need a new primary cover gasket. We're going to need oil for that as well. The belt looks good. There was no complaints out of brakes or anything like that. The front forks are dry. She did want to maybe upgrade to an LED headlight, so we can add that to the cost as well. So let me get a price for her. When you have a leak, they just get worse if you don't address it. Unfortunately, some leaks are kind of devastating. I just finished that 2009 Street Glide where we did the inner primary seals and shifter shaft seal and all that. Got it off the lift, started it up, rode it around. Did great. Parked it, come out, went in, ate bacon sandwich, come out. There was a little drip of oil. Oh no. Crawled up under there. It was not coming from the inner primary at all. All that was dry as it should be. Where it was leaking from was where the cases meet. It was just dripping. I mean, it was just like maybe 2 drops on the ground. So if a customer come up to get the bike, and I unfortunately crawled up under there with her and showed her, you know, that's a bad leak. What does that mean? Well, you have to take the motor completely down to the case, the lower case, and split the case, flywheel and all come out. Then go back with all new gaskets and innards and stuff. It would cost you an arm and a leg in labor. Another option is to swap the motor out. But it was a low mile motor. So I hate that. Those are rare, but a leak is a leak. And now on something like a leak from in between the cases, you know, if it's mine, I'm just gonna ride it and check the oil. I'll be right back with you when we decide what she wants to do. All right, we're back. Decisions were made, parts were ordered, plans were put into place, and we come up with a pretty good game plan. The customer did pretty much what I would probably do in this situation. To do all the things for the rocker covers, the base gasket on the front that's leaking, you know, I pretty much informed them that's a total top end rebuild. Would I do that right now in the middle of riding season? Probably not. I'd probably just ride it, check the oil, then in the winter time in the off season, go ahead and do a top end rebuild. All the other oil leaks I would fix. So that's kind of the plan that they had as well. So what we're going to be actually replacing now is the clutch cable. Now, it wasn't just the O-ring that was leaking. It was actually leaking inside the cable, which is kind of common on some. So the whole cable really needs to be replaced. So we're going to be replacing the cable. We're going to be replacing the primary cover gasket. We're going to be replacing this leaking oil line right here on my side. We're going to be doing a new oil filter, changing the oils, changing the plugs. We've got a new air filter going on, and we're going to fix this air filter gasket that is leaking kind of all over the place as well. I think by doing those things, we'll have stopped most of the major leaks. And then this winter, if the customer wants to bring it back up, we can do a total top end freshener up. I don't think I'd call it a rebuild because we're going to probably go back with original pistons and rings. We're probably not going to hone the cylinders unless they need it. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a rebuild, but we will be doing a gasket top end on this. So that'll be fun. Now it's been hot out here, and I do have this big fan up here that a subscriber sent me and blessed me with. It's not that much airflow, so my family knew I was hot out here and got me a fan that shouldn't make much noise when we're filming. Works pretty good and pretty quiet. All right, enough horsing around, enough tomfoolery. Let's get to fixing this clutch cable. And I'm going to show you what you would do if only your clutch cable was leaking. So if your primary gasket cover was fine, there's really no need to pull the primary cover off just to change that clutch cable. And I'll show you how to do that. Now we will be pulling the clutch cable, the primary off, but in case you're in a situation where you just want to replace the cable, I can show you how to do that without taking the primary cover off. So I'm going to attack it that way, but we will be pulling the primary cover off. So let's get to it. So of course, like on any clutch cable, we'll be, you throw that on the floor, and then hopefully you keep this one in your hand. Pull these little retainers off on this model. Of course, your model might not have that, and get all the spiders and doodads out of the way. And then what you'll find on this boot, a lot of people mess these boots up, and here's why. You got a narrow end up here on the boot, and you got a fat end down here. So you always want to, when you're taking them off, go up with the fat end and then come back down with the fat end. If you don't, what you'll do is you'll rip these, tear these up, break them, and these are really good protectors for you to keep on your bike. We got our lock nut here. 9/16 will break, and this is a 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to run my clutch adjustment all the way up to get as much slack as I can. And as you can see, there's really not much. It's really not out that much at all. So just break that free. I'll run my lock nut up, and then I'll run this up as far as I can go. And if you got the boot on there, it really keeps all the trash and debris out of that. Now I'll check my slack on my cable. That's as much slack as I can get out of it. And now we're ready to go ahead and work on getting the cable off down on the primary. Now, if you're just replacing this clutch cable, you really don't need to drop the primary fluid, but you may lose some fluid out. So you'll have to kind of top it back off with whatever you catch out. But this has been leaking for a while, so I would say that the fluid in here is kind of low anyway. But I want to go ahead and drop the fluid since we are taking the cover off anyway and changing the fluid. So a 5/8 on the drain plug down here. And then this drain plug, of course, will have an O-ring on it that we'll be replacing as well. The fluid looks really, really good and clean. You'll have a magnet on the end of your plug. You'll want to just check and see that it's a pretty good sized chunk right there of metal. The threads look good. It's not from the thread. Hopefully it's not from the primary thread either. The O-ring does look pretty good, but we will be changing that because you just don't want to do all that work and then a 2-cent O-ring cause you to leak. All right, now with that plug out, we can go ahead and take our derby cover off, and that's how you'll access the clutch adjustment to actually free it up to get the clutch out. So these are T27s here on this one. I'm just going to crisscross to break them free. I feel like they're good and torqued as they should be. Now understand, torque specs on the derby cover, at least for this bike, is different than the torque specs for the primary cover. So understand that. A lot of people don't take the time to look up the torque specs on the derby cover. They just assume they're the same as that, and they're actually not. And I like, when we go back, to put a little blue on the bolts as well, just for funsies. Oh, we're putting a new battery in as well, of course, and kind of rerouting some wires so that the cover doesn't catch on any of those hot wires. All right, take this last one out. Our cover should come out. You'll see a gasket ring there. So what you're going to see is this little retainer spring, and usually the nut will stay on it. So you just pull it all off together. There's a nut and a retainer spring. Keep that together, and then that'll go back on with the spring facing out towards you. Now, to release the clutch mechanism from the actual cover, it's pretty easy, and they give you enough room in the cover to actually get the mechanism out to take off the cable. So what you're going to do is go clockwise, and it's going to run this nut out enough for you to grab it, and then hold the screw and just spin that off. Okay, so it'll go back on this way as well. And set that in your derby cover. And now this whole ramp and ball is ready to come out. And I suggest kind of holding on to it in one piece. You'll see a little lip here that comes out. And you hold on to this all together because there are bearing balls in here that allow the ramp to go up and down. And there is a C-clip in there, but they could fall out. So just be careful. Now that you've got that out, you can kind of maneuver this around to get this whole mechanism off. And so just kind of keep it all together. Set it in your derby cover as well. And this little pin, this little adapter right here, just pull back and slide off the cable. That'll go there as well. And now your clutch cable is actually free and can be threaded out here. Now before you go threading this out, it's still attached to the clutch housing. So what you want to do is get that clutch housing, the cable off the clutch housing, and then you can stretch the cable out. And as you back this out, the cable can spin and come out. If you try to take this off without taking it off of the housing, you'll get this in a bind, and then you got to take it off anyway to put the new cable on, right? So just go ahead and let's do that. Okay, I got you best up here I can. You got this little pin that holds the clutch lever on, and it's got a little bitty tiny retaining clip on it. And what I found is it's best to take your pliers and shave them down small enough to where it'll fit on that clip. If you do that, you can actually save on this clip, because all you do is expand it and then you push the pin up past the ring. Now, if you mess this up, booger this up, stretch it out, no worries. Harbor Freight sells a whole kit of them you can find, and they're actually a little bit more sturdier than that. But understand, all it's doing is keeping that pin from riding up on you, because it's down here at the bottom. So if you can just push up past the clip, usually it'll come off, but I do find that you have to shave down the nipples on the clip. All right, now that that's off, the pin's out, we can move the clutch cable out since we've taken all the slack off, and then we can bring it over this way and just wiggle the cable out. And now with this off, we can again pull this little slider out of the cable itself, and then our cable is now free. So now we can snake our cable around however we want to get it down to where it's kind of level with how we're going to thread it out. You don't have to worry about the cable because we're replacing it. And now as we twist on this cable, it should come off. This is a, oh, it's not a 9, oh, that's a 1/2 inch. This is a 9/16 here. So you just want to get good leverage on it, and I like to put my elbow on the forward controls. Of course, if you got mid controls, just kind of put your hand there, and we're just going to turn. It shouldn't be torqued down hard at all. Now I can actually hold the cable with my left hand and actually spin it as I spin this, and it will actually unthread now that I've got the cable loose from up top. Now it is a long threaded dude, so take your time. How's your projects going? I know a lot of you subscribers on our new community tab have posted your projects and what you're working on. I enjoy seeing them. Okay, now that that's off, we can just back the cable out, and that's it. It's done. Now pay attention to how your cable was routed before you took it off, but it's pretty simple. It just runs out here, and on this bike goes between the primary and the forward controls, up the neck, the front neck of the bike, and then just right into the housing. So there's really no special routing for this. And now this cable is bad. I don't think you can fix those. So what happens is you cannot keep oil out of this hole. There's just no way to do that. Oil is going to go in that hole. And it's kind of made like that. It kind of helps lube this cable up, but if it starts leaking back here, there is really no way to fix that. You just have to replace the cable. So if you were just changing the cable out, you would just run your new cable in here, tighten it down. Now hand tighten it down. Don't go, gorilla on it, because I have seen these break and crack, and then you'll leak out here and you'll never get that sealed up because your primary is cracked. So you just run your cable in, then later on when we put everything together, do that, and then run your cable up, and I'll show you all that. But we're not stopping here. We're going to go ahead and pull this cover off because it is leaking back here and dripping down as well. Now in order to get this cover off, these are Sportsters, so they have the shifter shaft ran right in the middle of the primary. So we've got to take this shift linkage off and the rubber boot here that's behind it, and then we can pull the primary off. Now on this bike, it's got the forward controls up here that kind of set in a little bit over the cover. It's just 2 bolts holding this whole footboard on, or peg on. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off, and I'm going to take, once this is off, I'm going to take the whole linkage and forward controls completely away from the bike, and then we'll have tons of room to work up in here. Tons of room for activities. Now on this linkage bolt, it is a 1/4 inch, and we'll just back out. But before we do that, especially if you're working on a customer's bike or really any bike, and you want your lever to stay the same as it is, then what you'll want to do is you'll want to make a divot mark right where this pinch bolt is right here. So I want to go right here, right in the middle of where that pinch bolt is. Now I want to take a punch and just hit it about 3 times, and that makes me a little mark there, and I was way off. So let me go up here, make another mark. So we're going to be going between the top and bottom mark, will be right in the middle. And then that lets me know, that way if I use chalk or a Sharpie, it doesn't, I'm pulling things off and moving things, it doesn't wear off. And then the next feller going in here says, oh, hey, there's a mark there. All right, so now we can just carefully loosen this pinch bolt up. They have been known to break, so be very careful. Sometimes people over tighten these pinch bolts because they see this gap and they think they have to close it completely, and they'll actually snap the bolt off or get it too tight, and when you try to take it off, it'll snap. There is a torque to this, so we'll be torquing it down to the spec, and that torque is there so that you do not over tighten, which could damage your shifter shaft as well. Take this off, and now we should be able to just kind of wiggle. That's not coming off, and I might have to drop this and bring it out here so that this has room to come all the way out, because I think I just don't have the room to bring it all the way out. On this bike, the forward controls are a 5/16 Allen, and there's just 2 of them. That bottom one was loose. There's an adapter plate on there as well. Behind that, we'll just leave out, make sure to get that up. It's just like a clamp that holds the crank sensor in place. Now, with those out, I should be able to wiggle this out. Oh yeah, there we go. Now while this is off, inspect those splines in there, make sure they look good. If not, if they look worn, now is the time to take this bolt out and just replace this arm right here. But those look good, so we shouldn't have to do anything else. Now there's a rubber, call it an O-ring, a bushing right there. It's just actually a spacer is all it is. You have an actual seal in here that's sealed over this. So when you go to take the primary off, if you're going to reuse this seal, which they tell you to replace it, but if you're going to reuse it and it's nice and dry like this one, then you want to oil this shaft up really good And I would wrap it with some maybe thread tape, just so when you slide this seal off, you don't damage the seal by sliding it off. Now, before we pull this primary off, the way these Sportsters are designed, there's still one more thing you have to do, even though you got everything out of the way. This bolt and lock nut right here is your primary tension. So if you went to take all these off and just try to pull this off, you're going to have trouble because your primary chain is still under tension by this right here. So you've got an Allen head right here. I believe it's a 1/4 inch. Yep. And then you've got this big lock nut. So what you'll want to do is back this lock nut off and then bring this bolt out. That'll let the tension off your primary chain tensioner. And then you can go ahead and take all these off, oil up your shaft, wrap it up so nothing damages this seal, and then pull it off. Even if you're replacing this seal, you still need to, when you go back on, to wrap this up so that it doesn't damage the new seal. But this seal looks good. Usually you don't get leaks out of here if they're taken off and put back on properly, because you're not filling oil up to here. So like there's not oil up here, but it does sling oil around. So if you're careful, you can actually reuse those. And the kit I bought did not come with one. I think I'll have one in stock though if we do damage it. Okay, so this big nut here is a 7/8, and had a subscriber send me a whole new set of standard Icon chrome. Man, they're nice. And so I don't have to use a croissant wrench. So now look, you're tightening, what we want to do is loosen. So we want to go this way with it. We're just going to break that free. And now as you turn this, it should turn that as well. There shouldn't be a need to really use that. So I want to go back till it kind of seats. And then I know there's plenty of slop. So I can't turn it no more, so there's plenty of slop in this. Now what you're going to find if you ever take this nut off is that it's a nylon nut. And usually when you put a nylon nut on, you'll put the nylon at the top of whatever you're threading on whatever bolt. However, on this it's backwards. You want the nylon to be on top, and that actually helps to seal so you don't have any oil leaking out of the bottom here. So that nylon will go toward the top. It'll actually go on backwards if you take this off, but I've never had to do that. So now at this time, with the cable off, with the forward controls off, with the shaft off, I wrap the shaft up. I want to oil around this spline. Now understand, when you pull this cover off, there's a thick part of the shaft up here that this seal rides on. So clean it off, make sure there's no debris on it that won't damage your seal. Then these splines here are smaller in diameter, so they shouldn't drag, meaning you don't have to really tape a bunch of tape on this. So it'll be looser. The seal will kind of be loose like that, but you do want something on there so this is nice and kind of smooth. Now at this time we're ready to get our 3/16 and start undoing these, and we can get our cover off. Now there is a torque sequence to how this goes on. So what I'd like to do is I like to take my gasket that I got in the package and take it out, and I will look in the manual of what the sequence is to tighten, to torque down. So you got 1, 2, then it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then it comes over here and goes 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yes, there's 16 bolts in this primary cover. Since there is a sequence of torquing them on, you want to be careful of just yanking the bolts out and warping this primary cover, or it'll never seal. Even if you use a good James gasket double beaded seal like this, or gasket like this. So what I do is I take a Sharpie and I put the little holes on these. Then I take my punch and punch a hole in them, and then I look at my manual and I label them how they're torqued on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in opposite direction. So this will be the first one I undo. This. Then I come over here and do this one, and then this one. Then once they're all loose, then I can just zip them out however I want to. of course, leaving this one last so that the cover just doesn't pop off. Now that they're all broke free, I can just go around, zip them off, and as I zip one off, I don't think they're different links. I think they're all the same links on this model, but I will put them in their respective holes. Well, hello, it's me from the future. The bike is done. I went back to edit the footage and it's like almost 2 hours long. And ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm gonna cut this off right here. There'll be a part 2 next Friday of putting this all back together, fixing the oil leaks that we wanted to fix this time, and then hopefully this winter come back in for a top end rebuild. Now I know some of you are saying, hey, 2 hour long videos, I'm cool with that. I like that. Some of you might say, man, if you just cut in your yard, I'd watch. Okay, maybe I'll just start another channel of just me hanging out, me working around the house or doing something. I don't know. But as far as wrenching, probably about an hour is about all you can put up with me. So there will be a part 2, but in this part 1, thank you so much for hanging out in the shop with me and wrenching. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. I know I did as well. So tell your mom and them I said hi.